I am definitely a recipe following kind of person. I know a lot of people just kind of throw things as they go, and that's a perfectly fine way to do things, but I personally don't have as much experience, I think, as I would need to in order to feel confident to go ahead and make recipes from scratch just off the cuff. But I'm learning, and I definitely would love to get to the point where I can do that, but for now, I'm a recipe follower. So I wanted to share with you a recipe that I recently did, and it's a huge success, called the Amish breakfast casserole. And I got this recipe from Scratch Pantry. If you've ever watched Becky from Homestead, that's her blog, and she's great. I love watching her. It's just delicious, and also super easy to reheat in the morning in the oven, or if you use a microwave or any of those things. It's just really easy to whip up in a hurry. And you can also make it in batches and freeze, because it freezes really well. So this is what I did. I actually tripled the recipe so that I could make 3 casseroles rather than just 1. It really doesn't take that much effort to make additional casseroles or whatever it is that you're making, and it's a great way to save time in the future. Your future self will definitely thank you. She suggests using a pound of sliced bacon, and that's certainly fine, and it would turn out great that way too. I traditionally, though, use sausage. So what I did was I bought a 2-pound roll of sausage, and I just ground that up and interdispersed that between the 3 casseroles. So you can either do sausage or bacon with whatever you prefer or have on hand. And then you can also use an onion, red pepper, green pepper, or any kind of like thing that you want to add with that. I personally have fajita blend, frozen fajita blend bags from like Meyer that I was using, and I eventually would like to get to the point where I no longer buy those sorts of things, but for right now I already have it on hand, so I'm not going to waste the food. But you could certainly do that yourself. If you have fresh peppers that you don't want to spoil, go ahead and cut it up and freeze it, and then you can use it in recipes just like this. She also suggests 6 eggs. So I actually used quite a bit more eggs. I personally like my breakfast casserole to be very eggy. So this is entirely up to your preference. Add as much eggs as you feel you want in your casserole. I wish I could tell you how many I put in there, but suffice it to say, it was a lot. I would say it was probably more than triple that. So just kind of add to your own preference how many eggs you would like. Also, it says 4 cups of frozen shredded hash brown potatoes. Those like southern style bags of hash brown potatoes. So I had these on hand. I had like 4 or 5 bags of those kinds of potatoes on hand. So I'm going to use them up. Would I like to in the future just use regular potatoes and keep them up myself? Absolutely. But for now, I'm not going to waste the food. I'm going to use what I have on hand, and it is certainly an easier solution than peeling and chopping up a bunch of potatoes. But either way, you can't go wrong. Just have some sort of potatoes. And again, I did not use just 4 cups. I definitely used more than this. I think it adds a lot of like rich flavor, and it also fills you up better. So again, I used more. I think I used 2 whole bags of the southern style potatoes. So yeah, again, to your preference. I shredded up some cheese. I had Colby Jack on hand. You could use sharp. You could really use whatever kind of melted cheese that you would like. But that's what I had on hand, was Colby Jack. So I just shredded up a whole pound block and interdispersed that between the 3 casseroles. And then also she says to use 1.5 cups of small curd cottage cheese. I personally used sour cream, and it works perfectly well. So either whatever you have on hand, whatever you prefer, you can certainly use the cottage cheese or sour cream. Either one will work beautifully. That's personally what I use. And then she doesn't suggest this, but I think she probably adds it too, with salt and pepper to taste. So you can certainly add that too. So you just want to preheat it to 350 degrees and in a 9x13 dish. So I have these metal aluminum containers that I bought on Amazon. That's what I use to make bulk food, and I preserve them in my freezer that way. So that's what I used, was 9x13 aluminum containers. And you're just going to want to cook that for about 35 to 40 minutes. Now, I think mine cooked for, I want to say, an hour. Don't hold me to that. I would definitely check it at 40 minutes or so. But it did take longer than 35 to 40 minutes. I do know that. So just kind of pay attention to it. Make sure you're cooking it until it's fully set on the top. Mine was still kind of had that like eggy yolkiness still to the top at 40 minutes, so it was definitely not cooked through. And I would just kind of check it every 5 to 10 minutes or so based on how long you think it needs. But yeah, that was a great recipe. Like I said, I made 3 of them, and it's a wonderful thing to just have in your freezer to be able to thaw. I'm currently thawing one of the 3. We ate one and still have one in the freezer, and we're thawing another one for the rest of like the weekend and into the next week. So yeah, it's a great thing to have on hand. I highly recommend it.